Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our fourth webinar of the Women's Exporter Program. I know we took a little break over the holidays, but it's really nice to be back and to see everyone again. Super excited to have you all here. As a reminder, this is our second last session of the cohort. So this one, and then we still have one more before we finish all 5 sessions. So really awesome to see all the progress so far. If you don't remember, my name is Nadia. I'm our program lead here for the Women's Exporter Program at Startup Canada. And to begin, I would like to acknowledge that the land on which I'm on today is located on the unceded territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of all Indigenous peoples, and I encourage each and every one of you to take a moment today to acknowledge the traditional territory that you are residing on as well. Today's session is being recorded as always, and we'll be sharing it with you afterwards in case you want to go back and take notes or look at anything. So don't worry about frantically taking those notes. We'll have it there for you. We invite you to introduce yourself in the chat again, just so you can continue to connect with one another and get to know each other. I know that's one of the best parts of a program like this is getting to know the other founders and entrepreneurs in the room. So really encourage you to introduce yourself, where you're calling in from, and your organization as well. This program is in partnership with UPS Canada, and we're very excited and proud to continue to present this program with you to help bridge the gender gap in education and export by providing targeted assistance to women-owned small and medium-sized businesses. Now, today's webinar specifically is about leveraging e-commerce to export. And as a reminder, if we go back to some of the previous sessions, we've already talked about in the first one, why export and the benefits of exporting, how to prepare for export, and the checklist of everything you need to know. And our last webinar was on exporting your products, where we did a deep dive into logistics, customs, shipping, and more. So now we're really excited today to dive into e-commerce, and we have 2 incredible entrepreneurs who have grown their business on e-commerce who will be here to share their insights as well. We'll be discussing the benefits of using online platforms to expand into new markets, providing tips on how to optimize e-commerce platforms specifically for export purposes, and we'll also dive deep into pricing and shipping strategies as well. We'll have a presentation from Paul from UPS, and then followed by the panel with Charlene Lee, co-founder and CEO of Eatable, and Jen Harper, founder and CEO of Cheekbone Beauty. We have some prepared questions. As always, we always want to make sure that we can hear from you as well. So if you have any questions that you think of throughout the entire webinar, make sure to drop it in the Q&A section, and we'll be going there to make sure we can answer some of your questions as well. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Paul, who is our first speaker of the day. I will pull up your slides, Paul, and then we can get started.
Thank you, Nadia. Appreciate that as always. And welcome back, everyone. Hope everyone's got a great start to the year. I can't believe the first month is almost done. We're wrapping that up. But hopefully everyone's getting a good start. And I'm really excited about today's session. The excitement that I've got for today's session is because I've been supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses for over a decade now. And when we talk about e-commerce, it really has leveled the playing field for small businesses to be able to compete, obviously, with larger businesses, not just here in Canada, but obviously around the world. So this is a great topic because it really does help businesses in general be able to get their products, their services out to not just our market, but around the world. And we'll dive into this and learn a little bit more from it. And then, like Nadia said, love to hear from our 2 panelists, business owners at the end. We've got some great questions for them and want to know personally their experience as they've taken their business global. So with that, Nadia, we can go to the next slide. We'll dive right into it. Again, the significance of e-commerce in today's global market, it just can't be overstated. It's basically transformed the way business operate and connect with consumers worldwide. And on the screen here is just some of the key aspects. And again, I don't think this will surprise anyone that's watching this today, but I think it's really important to reinforce how e-commerce has really changed how business is done around the world. And it's made it a lot easier, even though there's some complexities to it as well. Global reach obviously is a key thing. Gone are the days that if you wanted to have your product in another market, you had to be in the other market, brick and mortar, yourself or partner or distributor. That is no longer the case. 24/7 accessibility. Customers love that, right? If we can't sleep and we're tired in the middle of the night, we can jump onto our favorite website and order some of their product if we want to, or at least see what they have to offer. Cost-effective way to entry, right? Again, you don't need to be in market. It's a great way to really understand your customers. The data that you can actually capture off of your websites to understand where people are spending their time on your website, what products you're looking at more. All of that data really helps you with some of your decisions. Convenient for consumers, touched on that. Digital marketing opportunities, supply chain efficiencies, right? Even though it changes some of the supply chain, being able to go direct to your customer as opposed to having to get your products into a market, maybe having warehousing there, and then from there picking and packing could be what you want to do, especially as you start growing into some of these markets. But as you are just starting off, going into new markets and going direct to a customer, having that supply chain efficiency because of the e-commerce solution is great. Adaptability and innovation is a key component as well too. And global brand building, and of course, pandemic resilience, right? We know that, right? In fact, because of the pandemic, e-commerce boomed. That's where everyone went to. So it's a critical component to know that. So there's a lot of key aspects when we're talking about it. And basically, e-commerce has become the cornerstone of global trade. It's providing businesses with opportunities for growth, efficiency, and customer engagement, all in an increasingly interconnected world that we are all familiar with these days. So embracing e-commerce is not just a choice, but we believe it's a necessity for businesses looking to thrive in today's global market. All right. So what are some of the statistics that we see out there when we're talking about global commerce? So for example, sales, there are different numbers out there, but Statistica provides that in 2021, we actually have seen over 4.2. In fact, I was looking at some of this earlier today, and I've seen numbers that are saying it's over $5.2 trillion in 2021. And they're saying that it's going to exceed 8 trillion by 2027, which really isn't that far along if you really think about that. So huge growth, and it continues to see a lot of trajectory when it comes to global e-commerce sales. From a year-over-year growth, we're talking double digits as well too. There's a lot of growth when we're seeing the e-commerce getting to a point that, again, from some stats, is telling us that it's probably getting close to 25 to 30% of all retail sales is now coming from global e-commerce, and that's because of that year-over-year growth. Mobile commerce is critical, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit when we get into the next slides, but I still see today, unfortunately, some businesses, when I go into their websites, they look great, but then if I open it up on my phone or on my iPad, it's not mobile friendly. And that makes it very hard. And again, I'll touch on this a little bit. You'll lose some potential customers if your website is not mobile friendly. And it's gaining a lot of traction. Again, they're saying that mobile commerce, the latest stats I saw is that last year, it actually exceeded your traditional online commerce. So it's very important that your website is mobile friendly. Emerging markets like China and India is growing at a huge pace. Obviously, we've seen some downturn post-pandemic, but they're still growing as far as their e-commerce sales. And these emerging markets is just helping global growth in general for all businesses, including our businesses here in Canada. Cross-border e-commerce, you're hearing a lot of these buzzwords now. Nearshoring is a key one. So a lot of businesses are now bringing their production or their operations closer. For example, maybe in Mexico, it could be even in the US. But for us here, businesses in Canada going to the US, there's a lot of that cross-border e-commerce. And that's great because the improved logistics and payment processes that are available for you as a business is making that even more of a possibility. Penetration as a total retail sales, I indicated that. We know the impact of the pandemic, right? And then I love this last stat. It's SMB participation is going through the roof when it comes to e-commerce. And part of that is because it's allowing you to actually go global. There are a lot of small businesses that wouldn't even have considered going into other markets, but because of the capabilities of e-commerce, they are doing that, and they're growing. And I love talking to some small businesses when they're telling me, Paul, my sales outside of our market is greater than within our market. And you love to hear those successes from small businesses. And I'll love to hear from our two panelists as well, too, to see if that's the case for their businesses as well. Okay, let's move on. So e-commerce platforms and marketplaces, there are different ways for you to start this or to take this on. And as you go down this path and this journey, you might want to change that. You might start off really small and maybe even utilize carrier APIs, right? So for example, you can come to UPS and be able to, at least from the shipping part of it, pull all the requirements that you need to build your e-commerce platform if you want to integrate that with your own platform. You can integrate that with platforms that are out there. I know there are two panelists, they use Shopify for their websites, but there's other platforms out there as well too that help you sort of integrate and still customize your platform, but be able to use the expertise of some of these enablers that are out there. And then from a shipping perspective, there's other tools, right? So if you don't want to go directly to the carrier, you've got McCool, Shippo, ShipStation, the list goes on and on, of a whole bunch of very capable solutions out there that can tie into your inventory, tie into your shipping needs with your carriers, and bring all of that together. But all of this is important because there's lots of benefits, not just for platforms, but using some of these other tools. But I want to obviously highlight one of the key ones, which is what we're talking about, which is going global, right? It really allows you to expand your market reach, not just across our great nation, but obviously into other markets around the world. So now let's head into the next slide. And I'm going to touch on something that we've done a lot of work at UPS, not just here in Canada, but in the US and around the world for several years. And that is what we called the pulse of the online shopper. So we've done a lot of research with consumers, people that are actually buying online, to try to understand what is it that is important to them. What is going to make a consumer come to your website, actually put something in a shopping cart and finish that transaction, as opposed to walking away. And you can see at the bottom right that based on our studies, if your website, and I know no one here today is like this, but if your website doesn't do any of the things that consumers tell us that they expect, and I'm going to touch on some of the more important ones, you can expect up to 90% abandonment rate in North America alone, and pretty close to that in other parts of the world. And that is a crazy statistic, because if you think as a small business, all the effort and work that you do to bring people to your website, to only now know that after all that time, effort, and money to get them there, because you know your product is a great product and they want to buy from you, their experience on there is bad enough that for every 10 people that put something to their shopping cart, only one's going to buy. Those are terrible statistics. And we're going to discuss on how you can reduce that. And hopefully most of you have already done some of these things, but I'm also hoping some of you might pick up some key points. But to start off, we want to make sure we're developing a user-friendly website. And again, I already touched on this, optimizing for mobile devices. If I can't grab my phone and go to your website and quickly be able to do the same thing that I'm doing off of my PC, that is a problem, especially when apparently statistics from last year saying that over half of sales, e-commerce sales now, is coming from a mobile purchase. That is very, very important for you to have that. Integrate secure payment gateways is important. We'll touch that. And then localizing your content for target markets. That is very important. Even if you're going into markets where English is acceptable, you still got to make sure that the way you're communicating the words you're using, maybe even your brand or taglines are acceptable in those markets, because if they're not, you're just going to lose customers. And some of that research is really important up front before you actually launch your website. But what I want to do over the next few screens, and we're going to go on to the next one, is I want to touch on some of these components of what a good shopping cart looks like, which I hope you all have. And I believe from my research that I've done, our panelists all have this, which is great. But if you don't, you should have this on your websites. And the interesting thing about this is that as a business owner, you might say on some of these that you're going to see, well, hey, you know what? I don't have that on mine, and maybe I should consider putting on there. Is it really that important? I would tell you is take off your business hat for a second, put on your consumer hat. And I guarantee you, as I go through all these examples, as a consumer, you're probably going to be saying, yeah, you know what? This would be a pet peeve of mine if I didn't have this and I experienced this. And yeah, it could mean that I would walk away and not actually do it. And the first one is just being able to store a shopping cart for later. And what I mean by that is, you know, don't force someone to create a login ID. Because if you do, you're going to lose some people right there and then. Some people want to be your longtime customers. They'll go through the process of creating a login ID if that's what you want. But if they don't want to, they just want to buy as a guest, don't force them to do that. And more important is if I'm on your website today and I'm searching through the different products you have to offer, and if you've got a lot of products, this is even more important, because that might have taken some time for me to finally select what I wanted, the color I wanted. I put it into the shopping cart. And then for whatever reason, I got sidetracked, I got busy, I got on a call, I had to, run off and pick up the kids somewhere, do something, whatever the case might be. And now I come back to the shopping cart and I go to your website and there's nothing there because I didn't log in, you didn't save me, you didn't recognize that I was coming back to your website. I need to start that process again. Our research has told us that people get upset with that and they'll walk away. In fact, our data showed that anywhere from 30 to 35% of people would actually not go through the process of trying to find what it was that they put into their shopping cart originally, and they'll just not bother at that point. So it's important that you actually do that. And there's ways of doing that. I mean, there's a unique IP address, so make sure you actually are capturing that for your process. The next one is multiple payment options. Again, as a consumer, think about this, right? You might go to a website, you're thinking, this is a small business, but I love this product, the great cause, great product, want to buy from them. But you know what? I've had issues with fraud, or I've had issues with identity theft, or I'm just watching the news and hear about all of these large corporations that are being held from ransomware. How secure is this business? Do I really want to put my credit card in there? Some businesses will and not even be concerned. But others, if you don't have a verified way of me putting my credit card, or more important, even though you don't see it on the screen here, having other alternative ways of buying from you, like PayPal or Apple Pay or Google Pay, other methods, we've seen that from our stats, over 50% of people will walk away. 50% will walk away. So having multiple options around the world that are methods that make people feel secure and trusted is critical for you to reduce the shopping cart abandonment rate. Next, we've got multiple service options. And you're probably thinking, well, Paul, really, is this really important? Because at the end of the day, people want the cheapest way for me to get their product there. In fact, they want free shipping. And since we're talking about free shipping, Paul, and you're UPS, why is shipping so expensive? Well, that'll be the last thing we're going to talk about on the screen. So I'll save that for a little bit because I got some tips and tricks for you. But multiple service options is still very important. And you might wonder why that's important. Well, if I happen to be in Vancouver and your business is in Toronto, and that's where you're going to ship your product to me, and I love the product that you have, but I want it for a party on Saturday, and today is Thursday, or what I'm buying is a gift for somebody for a party on the weekend. I love it. I want to buy it, but you're only shipping it the lowest cost method, which is ground, which means I'm not going to get it until Tuesday. Too late. I can't get it. What's the point now for me? But if you gave me a faster method, yeah, you know what? I might have to pay extra now because, it's going to come to me express. But if I really want it and I like it and I need it faster, people will pay to get it faster. So even though it might not be what most of your customers will use and select, you're probably losing some potential customers because you're not offering them other options for actual delivery, which allows them for faster delivery options. And this is critical when you're going global, because when you're going global, people in other parts of the world want to know, when am I going to get this? Is this going to come, slow mail and it's going to take a week or two or more to get to me? That might be fine, and I might want to wait for that. Others are going to say, you know what, I want to pay, but I want to know that I'm going to get it in 2, 3, 4 days, a lot faster. So keep that in mind. Next, we're going to actually talk about time in transit. This is very important as well, too. Again, very important when you're going global with your business. People want to know not that just you have other options for me to ship, but when am I going to get that? I don't want to assume that if I selecting the fastest option, that I'm going to get it next day, because it might be next day, it might not be next day. I don't want to assume that I'm in Vancouver and I'm buying something from Toronto and it's coming ground, that I'm going to get it in 6 days. Because you know what? It might get there in 4 days and that might be fine for me. People want to know when I'm actually going to get it. So whoever you're using as a carrier provider, they should be able to tell you what their commitments are, at least the day, if not the time, and you should be pushing that back to your customers. So all this is available. All this you should be able to build into your shopping cart. So as a buyer, I can see that. Now, I want to pause here before we continue, because another important thing is, and I'm starting to see this with a lot of businesses, and the larger brands do this. Pushing some of this information upstream is even important, because you might be thinking, oh, Paul, I've got all of this. But if it's buried in the back end, so I put everything into a shopping cart, I know that you've got multiple options for service, but I need to go through multiple screens to get to the shipping screen at the end. Finally, you're going to tell me I've got other options and when I'm going to get that. Some customers are not going to go that far. They're just going to get tired and say, the heck with this, I'm going to go somewhere else. Being able to push some of the stuff upstream, where I've got something in a shopping cart, and as soon as I go to my cart, I can see that, hey, I've got other options. Here's the fastest I can get it on this specific day, but I can choose other options later on. People want to know that. And I guarantee you, some of you are probably going, you know what? I've experienced that as a consumer. I've gone onto websites where I don't have to go through multiple screens. As soon as I'm in my cart, I'm already seeing a lot of this other information that is educating me and letting me know what some of those options are and keeping me satisfied that this is going to work for me as I move along. Okay, let's move on to the next one. And now we're talking about tracking orders, and this is important. We live in a world today that information is key. Think about the last time you went onto a website and you actually ordered something. As soon as you finished and you placed your order, what do most of us do? We take out our phone or we go to our PC, to our mail, and we start refreshing because we want that confirmation email that that order's gone through, right? And we start getting upset because it's now been 10 seconds and since I placed my order and I still don't see that email in my inbox. How come it's not there? It should be there. And then the same thing with tracking information. Hey, your order's been shipped. Okay, but where's the tracking number? I want to track it. When am I going to get? It's the world we live in today. People want information. They want to know immediately. The good news is most carrier companies out there, not just UPS, have this information available that you can come and pull into your website and push out to them. And let me give you a little side tip before we move on. That's not even part of this, but if you want to be able to market to those customers and make them repeat customers, here's a little trick that you've probably have seen, and I'm hoping some of you have already incorporated into your website. This information you can pull right onto your own website and have it available. so that if you send a customer an email that says your order's on your way, click here if you want to track your package, it's coming via UPS. You can have it where the customer clicks and they come to the UPS website. And we'll take care of your customer. We will tell your customer, here's information we have on that package. We'll tell your customer when they can expect to receive it. If there's any exceptions, we'll let your customer know that. But it's your customer. Why are you sending them to our website? All of that information we're giving them, we can push right back to you. So when you send them that email and you click on that, you should have a page created on your site that gives them all of that same information that I'm going to provide to them. But guess what? That could be displayed on the left side of the screen. On the right side of the screen, you can say, by the way, Paul, thanks for purchasing that. Next time you come back to us, we'll give you 20% off. Or, Paul, you bought this product. Guess what? It comes in these other colors. And if you want to buy them now, save X amount of dollars. Or refer a friend and they save that. Whatever marketing campaign you want, you've got their attention because they want to track your package. But now you can also market to them as well. So that's just a little side tip that I wanted to provide because it's such a critical thing. And I guarantee you've all experienced it. I see it all the time when I'm buying online. I don't see it with all the small businesses. So it'd be a good thing for you to try to incorporate that. Okay, next slide. Landed costs. This is very, very important when we're talking about export. When you have savvy consumers and a lot more being added every single day that are buying from other markets around the world, which is what you hope to do when you start going global, people from other markets buying from you here in Canada, provided to them what's called landed costs is very important. If you've ever bought anything from another market and had it shipped to you, you know that when it comes to you, there's something that's called brokerage fees and duties and taxes that you need to pay when something is coming in and you're receiving something from another market, unless that business has already taken care of it for you. Usually it's not. Some people don't like buying from other brands, even though they like it in other parts of the world, because of not knowing what those costs are. This is great. I'm on Edible and I want to buy their popcorn. This is great stuff. But does the website tell me that, what it's going to cost if it's being shipped to me in Brazil? And again, Charlene, I know I'm picking on you. I don't know if it does or doesn't, but I just want to use that as an example. Even Jen, if it's cheapo, I don't know if they would show that, and I hope it does. But if it doesn't, what's critical here is if you can now, especially with UPS and with other carriers, you can provide that landed cost. You can now do one of two things. You can take all of that cost on, incorporate it into the price of the product or charge the customer up front, but at least the customer knows that, hey, here's the price of the goods, here's the shipping costs if there's any, here's the duties and taxes all built in. I'm not going to have any surprises when it gets delivered to my door. Or you can also tell them, hey, here's everything you're paying for me now, but by the way, here's what you can expect when UPS shows up at your door, because you got to pay for this brokerage, this duties, and this taxes. But there's no surprises, because the last thing you want is a customer who's going to email you afterwards and say, thanks a lot, but UPS showed up at my door and they wanted an extra $40 for brokerage, duties, and taxes, and you didn't even tell me about that. They'll call us as well too, because they'll be upset, but they're also going to call you because they bought from you, right? So being able to build landed costs and either just informing them, hey, expect this, or incorporating it into the price of your goods and your whole checkout process is two great ways of winning new customers and separating from your competition. All right. And next, returns. And this is the last thing I want to talk about. I love talking about returns because when I talk to business owners about returns, this is sort of when they start, looking down, looking off to the corner, and I don't want to really discuss returns because it's sort of that thing I know I need to deal with, but I really don't want to deal about it. It's such a pain to deal with returns. But now if I ask you, don't think of yourself as a business owner, but as a consumer. We as consumers, almost always when we go to a website initially, we want to understand if I'm going to buy from this business, can I return it if I'm not satisfied? So if that's what we expect as consumers, why would we not expect that our customers coming to our websites want to know that? Now, you might have a product, for example, like something that's perishable, where there's no returns. That's fine, but you got to tell them up front. Our return policy is this. Great, now they know. Don't bury it. I've gone to websites where the only place I can see returns is after I put something in their shopping cart, I go to the last screen, and now I can see where there's policies. I click on there, now it talks about the returns. And sometimes it's favorable returns, but I got to go that far. Have it available up front. Have your policies up front. Let customers know, hey, before I even continue putting in the shopping cart, if I'm going to buy something from Jen, can I return this? So let me actually click on here, see what her return policy is, right? So that's really, really important to have that. And you know that as consumers, that is critical. And I can tell you, if you set up your returns in a customer-friendly experience process, you are going to greatly differentiate yourselves from your competition, right? Unless they've done that as well too, which then puts you at par. But in a lot of cases, you're going to put yourself ahead of your competition, because if they're not doing this, you being able to say, here's our return policy. Yes, we accept it. Here's how easy we can do it. Here's how we can send your labels. Again, assuming your product allows you to do something like that, it's really going to help you grow your business and reduce some of the potential abandonment that you might have. So I hope everyone that's watching today is looking at this going, Paul, I do all of this. But some of you, if you haven't, these are just some of the things that if you don't do today with your website, you need to, not just for the sake of selling in Canada, but especially when you're trying to go global, because it's going to reduce your shopping cart abandonment to a more acceptable rate, so that hopefully you're not losing on people that were obviously interested enough to put something to our cart, but something then triggered them to walk away and not finish that transaction. And if we hit to the next screen, I want to just touch, oh, sorry, one more, just back one, sorry, Nadia. It's the free shipping, because this is always something we get discussed. So I always get asked, Paul, shipping is very expensive. Yes, it is, especially in the Canadian market. We're not in cahoots with our competition. It's just the way that our landscape works. Canada is a east to west, west to east country as far as flow of goods. It's very expensive to get things across the country. In some cases, you might be able to ship from Toronto to New York cheaper than from Toronto to Vancouver, because in New York, greater densities, things flow in a whole bunch of different directions. It's just unfortunately the way the market is. And then when you go global, obviously, the further it goes, it is a little more costly. But there are things for you to do that if you're not doing today, to allow you to compete with some of the bigger brands that are out there. Because I get asked all the time, Paul, how can I offer free shipping against someone like an Amazon or another large brand? Because they offer free shipping, obviously, because they don't pay for anything. Well, the first thing I ask everyone when I'm usually presenting is free shipping actually real or a myth? And I know you can't necessarily respond to me on here, but let me tell you the answer. It's a myth, because everyone pays for shipping. I don't care who you are, even if you're Amazon. Amazon pays for shipping, whether it's through their own process with their own trucks and paying for theirs, or if they're using us or another carrier, somebody needs to pay for that shipping. So how do you offer free shipping? Well, one way is you can incorporate your cost of shipping into the price of your goods. Well, Paul, that's going to make it very expensive, and then maybe people are not going to buy the products. Well, research has been done with consumers, and it's funny how our brain works as consumers and the psyche that's out there. They've done research where they've said, if you buy this item for $70 and you pay $30 for shipping, are you more likely to buy that or buy the product for $100 for free shipping? And 100% of people prefer to buy the item at $100 for free shipping. It's the same thing. 70 plus 30 is still $100, right? So incorporate it if you can into the price of your goods. I experience this all the time. I go buy something online from a brand that I buy from that happens to be a retail chain. I see the same item in the store, it's cheaper in the store. But online, I'm told I've got free shipping. No, I didn't. The price of the good online is a little bit more to cover for that shipping cost. Now, you might say, Paul, my item is a low-cost item. I sell it, one item could be $15, $20. I can't add another 15, 20 for shipping. That's ridiculous. That's correct. Maybe you can add $5 to it, but now you're reducing what the charge is to the customer. Instead of telling the customer it's 15 plus 15 in shipping, maybe it's 20 or $22 for the product, and now the shipping is a little bit less. Or, and you've seen all of this, add up to $100 in your shopping cart to get free shipping. Or, buy multiple items to get free shipping. These are all things that we've experienced, and I'm hoping that you've incorporated, because if you do this, those are ways of reducing the shipping cost sticker shock to your customer, and to try to incorporate and not have people look at this and go, well, it's free shipping over there, but here I got to pay $20, $25. Okay. All right. Perfect. I got one more slide, and then we're going to open up to the panel, which I want to get to quickly. So I've touched about the shopping cart component, but I wanted just to leave you with this because, to improve your success rate, it's not just those components, and there's a lot more of that. There's a lot of things that really get bundled together along with a great website. You need to ensure that your logistics and fulfillment is right and right for your business. The way that Charlene and Jen is set up to go global might not be the right solution for you, but you got to make sure that you've got that set up properly for what your customers expect, for you to also align to what your competition is or isn't doing to try to put yourself ahead of them, and what makes sense for your business. Make sure you've got digital marketing strategies in place. That's a great way to target when you're in other markets. Your payment, security, and compliance. That's important. So not just security method, but compliance when you're dealing with payments and currencies with other markets are very important. Support and localization, right? Hey, I'm going to a new market. Well, how are you going to support your customers in that market? How are you localizing everything in that market, right? So make sure you do that right as well, too. It's not just having a pretty website with great product. You got to make sure that you're being able to support those customers after the fact and localizing and overcoming any challenges you might have. So all of these put together, hopefully, will improve your success of reducing your shopping cart abandonment, and a success of you being able to, not just here in Canada, but be able to go to global markets around the world. Perfect. That is it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paul. That was a really, really great presentation. I know I learned so much throughout that whole session, and there was a lot of great insights shared throughout. And I know we want to kick off our panel now. So we're excited to have Charlene Lee, co-founder and CEO of Eatable, and Jen Harper, founder and CEO of Cheekbone Beauty. And this panel will be moderated by Paul. So we're excited to have him back as well. And we'll just get started right away. So I'll pass it back to you, Paul, for the panel session. And make sure you drop the questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. And Charlene, Jen, welcome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. I've followed both of you for a while now. Love your products, love what you do, love your causes. So all of that is great stuff. But I'll be honest, as much as I do know both of you and I follow you a lot, some of the questions that I know we've sort of discussed and I want to start positioning with you, I'm going to learn, because I'll be honest, some of the stuff I really don't know how you've done this. So I would love to see some of the stuff we talked about, how you may have incorporated or not, and how you've got to some of these markets. And I know, of course, the panel is going to want to hear this. So Charlene, I'm going to go to you first, and then Jen, I'd like to know your thoughts on this as well, too. But let's start with something very generic. So Charlene, how did you actually adapt your e-commerce store and maybe even the strategy for the different markets that you've entered, right? So maybe let us know what markets you're in today. That'll help with the audience. And then again, how you adapt your store or strategies for that market or markets.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me here. And it's nice to see, I've been reading through some of the bios on the sites. So it's nice to see so many great women-owned businesses. It's an honor to be here. So for us, we've been launched now and selling online since the very early days of Eatable. We basically launched our whole business just by throwing up a Shopify store. And from the beginning, I knew I wanted to sort of start small, understand our Canadian market, kind of learn how things are done within our own backyard first. But since then, our products has been so well received, we decided to branch out and ship across the states as well. So currently, we are shipping all across Canada, coast to coast, and shipping to all the US states as well. So that's our sort of retail, or our footprint in North America. And I started this way because, you know, it was easy. English being primary language of both countries didn't really require us to do much in terms of like translations or anything. And we had our store set up in a Canadian dollar currency to begin with. So since then, you know, it was pretty easy to plug into the States from that way. All the payments coming in were just in Canadian dollars. But I think recently Shopify has made some really great changes now where they enable a deeper level of customization between the two markets.
Perfect. Excellent. Jen, how about yourself?
Kind of the same situation. When we launched Cheekbone Beauty, we had opened it up so that, of course, it would be in Canadian and US dollars. So all of and we're a Shopify platform, and Shopify actually makes it really simple to open up into any market. They adjust the currency and dollar value for your online store. However, we set it up so that this is mostly done in USD dollars. That's how we operate now. However, being a Canadian business, the Canadian store runs in Canadian dollars.
Very good. Excellent. And that actually was the second question, but so the pricing strategy, I guess, Jen, from your perspective was, you know, it sounds like, and we talked about this before, it sounds like from a pricing perspective, you really didn't do any pricing differences or changes. All you did was make sure that you had the right currencies in the market, so USD or CAD, but you basically kept pricing consistent for your market, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And just
So
keeping the back end of your Shopify store up to date and constantly checking it, because they do make changes. And so just as the team's always just ensuring that everything's set up correctly.
perfect. Yeah. So Charlene, was that the same for you? So going into the US market, did you keep pricing consistent, or did you have to look at a different pricing strategy at that point?
So when we launched, we decided to sell at par, which means that the Canadian dollar price we were selling at on our shop was also the same price in USD for the American market. And this was just us kind of anticipating that the cost to get our goods across the border would be slightly more expensive. And luckily, we had the exchange for a while like work in our favor. So in a way, you know, like the Canadian dollars after we receive them is a nice little boost. But of course, you know, with the challenges in the economy in the last number of years, we've wanted to make sure that prices still feel like sustainable and accessible for all of our consumers. So we've since then looked at tweaking our US dollar pricing to be more in line with actual Canadian dollars, and Shopify allows us to actually set two different prices for each market depending on the SKU.
Perfect. Okay. Let's talk about driving traffic to our websites, right? And how we actually do that. So I'd love to understand, do we do this differently in Canada and the US market, or is it the same? And then maybe examples of some of the marketing channels that are working best for you. So maybe Jen, if it's all right, I'll start with you. But again, just wanted to know is how are you getting people to come to your website? And is that different on both sides of the border? And with some of the tools that maybe you can share?
Yeah, I feel like we could probably talk about this for days because it is obviously top of mind for us. You know, when you look at the data, the more people in your store, the higher your revenues. And so that's a really important metric to constantly be aware of. And then also collecting all of the data to find out exactly where people have come from. We do so many things. One, obviously using all of the data that's provided from Shopify. Our email marketing platform is Klaviyo, and then that links nicely with Shopify and collecting information there. We use Zigpool, Picky Stories, we do collabs. And then we, when we look at driving traffic, for us, it's really this a fulsome picture in the sense that our retail partners are involved in this. All of the social media work that we do is that being one of the absolute main sources of traffic from our website comes from social media. Our PR plans and systems and strategy, working with influencers, and then again, our large retail partnerships and how we work on just constantly creating content, because social is such a big part of how we drive traffic to our website, and providing then now, once you're on the site, how do we get people to stay there? That comes through product launches and promotional events and retargeting ads as well.
Excellent. Shirley?
Yeah, so we much like Jen, we started off very organically. After we launched our store a couple years back, we started on social media and tried to just build a community, just very grassroots style, first locally and then expanding across Canada. When some of the Instagram algorithms started changing, maybe about like 2 years into our business, that's when we first started dabbling into paid ads. So I was not an expert in this by any means. I have an accounting background, so I'm a little analytical, but the world of paid ads was like just new territory to me. So we brought in a small boutique agency to help us in those early days, get started with some campaigns through Meta and as well as Google. And so we've done it this way, and we really pay attention to what our ad spend looks like at different points in the year. Being a food product, we are quite seasonal. So the certain points in the year, obviously Black Friday being like the climax of everyone's year, as well as the holiday seasons are bigger times for us. We look at our ad spend week to week, month to month, and kind of dial up strategically at certain points of the year. And with that, along with the social, along with retargeting campaigns on Google and Meta, it's been this sort of like machine that works simultaneously. And so you can't really focus on just one area and like neglect others, because when a customer comes to your traffic or onto your website, they're top of the funnel, then they will get captured in, say, your email marketing, which, like Jen, we also use Klaviyo as well. It's really provided some great stats on the click rates and the open rates, and allowed us to sort of understand where our customers are and push offers to them. So we've been fortunate to have a really good open rate with our email marketing as well, and that's been a really strong channel for us from the early days too.
Excellent. Very good. Nadia, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. Just I know there's some good questions coming through, but try to multitask here. So just maybe get a couple ready to go. I'm going to ask the panelists another question first, but then maybe we'll get some of the questions that are popping up as well.
That sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you. So we saw during the presentation for the UPS Pulse of the Online Shopper that the abandonment rates can be as high as 90%, right? Now, if you look at other data that's out there, the average is in the high 50s to mid 60s seems to be what abandonment rates are from other studies that are out there as far as averages are concerned. Curious, and Charlene, I'll go to you first here. Can you think of strategies that maybe you've used to reduce your abandonment rates?
Yeah, I think you touched on so many great ones, Paul, in your session. That was super helpful. So we, as our use of Klaviyo, we've actually tried to customize a lot of post cart abandonment offers to some of our customers. So we use a app called Hotjar as well to kind of see where on the website people are looking and where they drop off. And if there is any drop off in the shopping cart, chances are it's probably one of the reasons that you proposed earlier, is just like shipping lead time, shipping cost. So one of the things we've done, which I think our customers have found really helpful, is to give an ETA on the product delivery, just even not just on the shopping
Mhm.
cart, but on the product page itself. So a lot of people purchase our products for gifts. It's really important to them to know when they can receive it by. So that's been a clarity that we've been able to offer that way. We also try to make our shipping page very accessible to consumers so that they can always click in either from our toolbar on our website or the bottom footer to go to our shipping page and understand any additional costs and general timelines of our processing. And you spoke on a really important topic of returns as well. So our product being a consumable product, we don't typically accept returns from customers. However, it's just still really important for us to make sure that the quality of the products is in good tip-top shape when people receive them. So we've actually increased our kind of free shipping rate over time. And we also offer a happiness guarantee to our customers. So even though we don't receive returns, if there is, for whatever reason, anything wrong with the product that is received, whether it's like a freshness issue, maybe it just got damaged on transit, we promise our customers that we make it easy to ship a replacement. Or just, it's more cost effective for us in some ways to ship a replacement instead of receive a return. So we found that happiness guarantee bodes a lot of customer confidence.
Excellent. Wow, that is very, very good. Jen, from your side.
Yeah, of course, using Klaviyo, we have a very robust flow strategy set up in our system based on the kind of traffic that's coming or the kind of consumer, and also using an app within the Shopify platform that is the heat map, where we can really find out where people are going when they hit the page and try to discover when they're leaving and why they're leaving, which has been super helpful to collect all of that kind of information. And then at the same time, our mission has always been 100% customer satisfaction, which means we return anything and everything, and have this promise of a guarantee that they're absolutely going to love the product. And we do whatever we possibly can to make sure that. I think customer service is a little bit overrated sometimes but my career prior to building a brand was in the hospitality industry. And so just like literally just read a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. And I think that's how you have to be in many cases to stand out in this really saturated marketplace. So just providing constant epic customer service. And then, with that, eliminating that abandon rate as much as possible, having chatbots on the website, having we don't use a 3PL. We actually have 2 human beings that work in customer service at Cheekbone, and they're the ones that wrap your order. You're communicating them about your shipping, a missing order, a refund, return product, and then use I think it's called HubSpot as our CRM, so that should one of them not be there, then any one of us can jump in and really jump into the trail of what's happened with that customer, and doing things that are really out of the ordinary, like sending them, something else that's not even a beauty related product, a card from me when something doesn't go, me emailing them, jumping in at times. Like, we really focus on customer service to avoid the abandoned carts and really want people to talk about how great our customer service is.
I love that, Jen. You touched on so many things that I've heard and I've discussed in the past too, because it's easy to get that sale and then focus on where am I getting the next sale and sort of forget that customer, where you obviously have it. You're like, we've got the sale, but I'm going to turn this customer into a repeat customer because I'm going to wow them.
Can I share our return customer rate?
Yes.
It's 60%.
But that's not by just sheer luck, right? That is the efforts that you're doing in the back, right? So absolutely, right? So yeah, I love hearing all those points. Great, thanks for sharing that. Nadia, do you mind? Maybe I know there's some questions coming through. Maybe let's pick a few here.
Yes, definitely. There's lots of great questions coming through and so many great insights being shared. One that came in, which I think is actually an interesting question, is on the use of agencies. So I know you mentioned you use email marketing, you use Shopify. Have either of you worked with any marketing agencies throughout your time with using your business, or do you mostly just do everything in-house? I think that's a great question on e-commerce because there's a lot of agencies out there that are available to work with.
I have a lot of opinions on this that aren't the greatest, so I'm going to try to keep it positive. we now do everything in-house to the best of our ability. I feel like the people closest to the brand, and that might mean having contract work done versus, right, with individuals, maybe not agencies. We've just never had any luck, fortunately, at Cheekbone Beauty with marketing agencies.
It's a valid point, Jen. No one knows your brand better than you, right? Like
Mhm.
that is, it's hard. It's hard to make sure that they understand the brand and what the brand represents and the messaging that you want around that brand.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very valid.
I echo some of those like very same sentiments. Like we've worked with a number of different agencies over the years. And it's really challenging to find a really good one who does understand your brand and sort of gets that vision that you have as a founder, and executes it in such a way that is sustainable, true to your voice and all of that. I started off doing it on our own, but because we are such a lean team, it quickly got to a point where I didn't feel like I was able to give it enough love as it required. So we've picked very specific areas in our marketing that we have, and to this day continue to outsource. So one of them was paid ads, as I mentioned earlier, and we did for a time also have an agency assist with email marketing, just because it's a especially strong channel for us, and we were able to turn that into a profitable channel. So I think one really important thing to consider when working with agency is know your costs, because you have to know how impactful the agency and their work is on your bottom line, and understanding gross margins. And we found that even with paid ads, there were times where if you look at the ad spend and the traffic that was coming in and the sales that were coming in, it was profitable, but after you consider the agency retainer fees and the monthly fees, it may not have been. So, over time, we've tried to consolidate the number of agencies we used. Rather than using multiple different agencies for multiple areas of business, you might want to sometimes it's worth the investment to work with a slightly bigger one that is able to have expertise across. But one of the good points of agency that I found was sometimes, because they're servicing so many different customers, it's double-edged sword. On one hand, you're part of a portfolio of clients, but on another hand, they're able to see kind of like best practices that are used across different businesses, maybe some in different industries, and they're often able to share kind of learnings. Like, you think you're the only company going through something, but no, so-and-so company that is also a client is going through the same thing. This is normal, this level of ad spend. So it's sometimes a good sanity check, which we've taken a little bit of comfort on.
Good point. Very good point.
Great
Nadia,
point.
is there another one? Yeah.
Yeah, I know we're coming close to time, but I think there's another really good one in the chat. So maybe we end off on this one. It's from Kate, and they were wondering, I know, Paul, you were talking about earlier how you can incorporate shipping into the price of your product. And they're wondering how, Charlene and Jen, you've done that for your products. Have you incorporated shipping into the price of your product? Do you have like maybe a certain basket size that people have to do before they do free shipping? What have your strategies been around the pricing with shipping? Maybe starting with
Charlene? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we started off with a really low free shipping threshold years ago. I went from like $30 to $45, and now I think we found our sweet spot at about $75. And I found that a very good number of customers actually respond really well to that. Like what Paul was saying earlier, a lot of people try to spend to the cart amount to get the free shipping. So we've worked out our numbers, and we, with that level, like, we've been able to get good sell through. And then some kind of a little bit further remote areas, we've absorbed a little bit of the cost on behalf of the consumer, just so that shipping number doesn't look as scary. So we have a flat rate now of $12.99.
awesome. How about yourself, Jen?
Yeah, we figured out a number that works. I think it's $38 is our number that works for us. But we didn't start that way. I think there was never free shipping. And then over the years, we just realized people love free shipping. We do a lot of testing and surveying with our customers. And one of the tests we did in one whole year was every time we offered free shipping, just saw like a dramatic increase. And it really it did work.
Now, Jen, just real quick, when the times you offered free shipping, was the price of the goods increased, or did you absorb the free shipping?
We were doing this to test, so we were absorbing it.
Absorbing? Okay.
There was a time period after the pandemic where a lot of brands were increasing due to supply chain costs and
Mhm.
rising costs. And we were able, because of the amount of inventory we were sitting on, to hold off for almost 2 years, which worked in our favor because that's when we were doing a lot of the testing.
Excellent.
I think that's such an important part about e-commerce in general. Everything is about testing, whether you're testing copy, images, landing pages, email copy, everything is about testing. So I think that's an overall takeaway that we can have here. And definitely with shipping, that's one to do as well. And you can also look at even offering free shipping later in your flow. So we talked about email flows a bit earlier. Maybe the first email, you don't offer free shipping, but in your third email in your abandoned cart flow, you end up offering it. So definitely something to consider as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Paul, Jen, Charlene, all of our attendees for coming today. I think this was an incredibly informative session. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure with all the engagement in the chat, everyone seems like they've learned a lot and got a lot out of this session as well. Thank you so much for donating your time today to our speakers and for all the attendees for taking the time out of their day to come learn as well. Our next webinar, which will actually be the last webinar of the whole Women's Exporter program, will be on February 27th. It's on keeping your customers happy. So I think that will be a great one on customer service and customer journeys. Please make sure that you take a moment right now to register for the session. Miriam will be sharing the link in the chat, so make sure you register so you have access to the Zoom link. And make sure that you also fill out the feedback survey about this session. We'll be sending that over to you along with the recording of the session as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for an incredible session. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.